I would like to talk about how these certain behaviors that are encouraged by the Bible, they somehow resonate with human nature, with like an objective part of who you are, like your body, your biology. That's super interesting because it indicates that there are conditions that need to be followed. There are sort of rules that stipulate what is better, at least, or what is worse as behavior to act out. Not necessarily survival rate or survival utility if it increases your survival, but there's something that is good for you if you act out in a certain way, and there are some things that are bad for you if you act in other ways.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think we should give an example. So there's the principle of forgiving someone instead of bringing up revenge, something like that. For example, if you stick to that you forgive people and don't stay angry. Of course, you can give someone feedback or say, I didn't like this, or the next time could you please do it a little bit different, or in a loving manner. But forgiving someone relieves yourself of kind of a burden of angerness, negativity, which in first situation, at first, saying I'm going to forgive feels unnatural because you feel justified to be angry when someone does you wrong. But then after forgiving, you see, oh, this is a relief, and this is one of the core special traits about Christianity. Or another one is it's better to give than to receive. Better to give love than receive love. It's better to share than to always receive also property, which is totally unnatural because we feel like we're individualistic about it's all about us. And then if you lose sight about yourself but put others first, then and you see that this makes you happier or more joyful, then you say, oh, that's strange. These are two examples, I think, to illuminate what you mean. And I think, yeah, that is special sometimes, that uh, principles of self-sacrifice or acting against your instinct of, oh, I was treated unjustly, I was wrongly treated, I'm going to put revenge. That these things, going against these instincts, that they benefit, is really something special. I believe. I think, yeah, that there's some value in that. So, or you say, well, this was just because the people wrote down the Bible. Jesus had some revolutionary thoughts about society, or indeed it's like a revelation from God, who said, well, I'm going to bring someone into the world who's going to give some extra advice. Yeah.
Mm. Yes. So you're saying that let's just take the simple example of forgiving, that when you forgive, something very special happens psychologically within you. That is, I mean, do you have an idea of what happens within you when you forgive, or what's the benefit of forgiving?
Well, of course, on the long term, that you don't end up in fights, of course, but also that you're relieved of some kind of urge to be your own judge, to be the judge, and they're going to punish unrighteousness. That you feel like this, and it's a bit like, you know, when there's an inflated balloon, which uh, you open it up and it just uh, goes empty
Explodes.
again. It's like a
Oh,
relief, a relief.
oh, like that. It
Negativity, yeah,
deflates. Yeah.
deflates again. Yeah.
Mm. And that, dude, you when you just said that, something came to my mind again. Can you tell me? I remember there's some concept in the Bible that you can't, let's say, or you should forgive because you are not the judge. You're not eligible, you're not credible, you're not qualified to
Yeah.
judge.
So that has two sides. So indeed, okay, you are not the judge in a way, and of course, Bible also speaks about bring justice to the world. So it's good that we have judges to bring order to society. The other side of it is, okay, if I'm going to judge other people for they do wrong to me, uh, who's going to judge me? So if you say, it's this assumption that after life you will be appear before your creator, and he will ask you, what have you done? How was your life like? And if you expect the creator, God, to forgive you for the things you did wrong, then you should also, of course, forgive others, because otherwise it's really, you're a hypocrite. If you say, okay, I should be forgiven for the things I did wrong, I should go to heaven, but I'm not going to forgive others who did wrong to me. And yeah, there's discrepancy in that. That's strange.
Mm. And isn't there a, that's kind of what comes to my mind is when you, let's say you judge and hence don't forgive, you are you are being proud, you're being arrogant, you're basically assuming you are capable, you are qualified to judge, and that would fall under a Luciferian trait, right?
Definitely. So now you start to talk about Luciferian traits. Yes. So pride. So in a way saying, okay, I as a mere human being, I as a created thing, just life on earth, am of the same level as the creator who started the Big Bang, or in another way created the universe and everything that exists. I'm on the same level, and I don't need to uh, to uh, to give an account of what I did, but I can judge others, and because the strange thing is, if you judge other people, they're doing something strange, because no one wants to be judged themselves. So you're starting a process or a culture, a judging culture, which you don't want yourself, because you don't want other people to judge every detail of your life and condemn you all the time. So if you do that to others, that's really strange, because then you're starting something which is not capable of giving a normal group of people living together.
Hmm.
Way.
And if we can like connect that to, let's say, everyday life, I mean, we've only been alive for like 20 something years now. We don't know how people behaved,
Yeah.
100 years ago, but I have the sense that people nowadays are relatively judgmental. And I think, like, if you look at the psychology of judgment, I believe it is people who judge more. Oh, there's two reasons. Oh, this is awesome. This is awesome. So when you judge, you're benchmarking yourself. And people who need to benchmark themselves are insecure about their own value. So they're always trying to seek a benchmark which they are above and can sort of validate their value. So they'll, let's say somebody who's very insecure, they'll judge others negatively quite frequently in order to make themselves feel better about themselves. So we have a crisis of insecurity, I think. People are very insecure. But the problem is, were they insecure before we were alive? I'm not sure. The second thing is, judgment also comes from ignorance, because the world is so like unfathomably complex. When you find a specialist in a certain scientific field, they will tend to be very careful about making statements and be very uh, conservative in judging things, because they understand how complex the field is, the field they're specializing in. So once you fully understand the nature of reality as a whole, or even just one aspect, you know that it's way too complex to box in and judge. The people who tend to box and judge things just don't know what they're talking about. So it's a rule of thumb, I think. If you're talking to somebody who's super, let's say, like oversimplifies their their statements and judgments, you can tell they don't really know what they're talking about.
Yeah. So these two things, that
Yeah.
the first one has to do with, again, with, okay, am I confident about who I am? Who I am? Do I belong? Do I have this peace inside of myself? Have I found some kind of identity in which I feel comfortable or not? And if not so, then then I'm still in this position of, okay, the opinions of other people around me is really important, or my behavior or my status compared to other people. So if the status of other people, if you can bring it down in your own subconscious uh, uh, view of the world, then you feel more comfortable with it, confident about yourself. Yes, uh, that's one of the things, of course. And then I think that's really one of the core uh, problems with our peers in the West. So really subject of, okay, I feel like I have to live up to expectations of other people, of myself, and there are kind of illusions about that other people have a lot of opinions about you. Well, and that is especially the case when you're judgmental yourself. Then you start to believe that other people are also judging you, because you think it's normal. So in a way, in the long term, it will come back to you that, okay, if you start to have this judging way, you start to believe other people are also judging you, and then again you get into this negative spiral.
Mm.
So
And I think a reason why people tends to judge and get in that cycle is because that, I mean, it's a very, like, it's like an existential insecurity. It's a deep, deep thing. It's not a matter of, you know, like, I can't think of an explanation for the existence of the insecurity other than a question of belief system. Like, it's so deep. It's not really you weren't good at school, therefore you're insecure. Part of it might be that, but it's a question of the structure, the glasses with which they view the world. And I want to ask you, because I don't really know the story offhand, but there is some teaching in the Bible that tries to convey the inherent value of humans.
how you mean? Convey?
That they try like there's some, I don't know if it's a story or that just like a narrative going throughout the whole Old and New Testament, I don't know, that humans are inherently valuable. For example, if somebody commits murder, you don't kill the murderer. That's not right. They still have some sort of value within them.
Yeah, yeah. So this notion of inherent value is really important, because if you understand it, that you will also understand a lot about things like pro-life movement or other activist groups that say, well, every individual life is really important, and has to do with the hierarchical view of life. So we believe that the humans are special as a species, not because we're intelligent, but because there's something in us. There's a blueprint. We were designed to come to some extent in which we can have a notion about right or wrong, and in a way resemble traits which the divine God has. So he wanted on this earth to have like also creatures that are like him, not the same, but have traits which are unique to human beings. Monkeys don't have them, pigs don't have them. This moral consciousness, and in a way, this idea of God, I'm going to design. I'm not going to discuss now a discussion about how this happened, because there are even models through which we say, okay, God knows how time will go, so he starts with simple forms of life and lets evolution do its thing and come to humans, which is problematic, but it is an idea to consider. Okay, humans came to be here to resemble God in a way, and he puts them as like a crown on creation. So they're more special than any other human or any other living thing, which is of course different from a naturalistic viewpoint where you say humans are just more intelligent species, but there's nothing inherently worthwhile about a human being. It's just a really complex form of life, of energy and matter coming into one position, and its value is gotten from how he relates to his surroundings, what other people think about him, or is he valuable to his parents? No, he's not valuable to his parents yet because he's still not born. Then he has less value than someone who is born already. And that's where Christians say, well, okay, perhaps a little bit less valuable, but still every human being is valuable in itself
Mm.
because it in a way resembles the divine. Yeah.
It's actually a profound idea, that, because I mean, it's also actually a difficult one, I think, for people to grasp nowadays, because if you look at sort of the track record of humans, sort of like what they've gotten up to, it's difficult to sort of to treat them as, so these beings that embody some inherent value. But could you like kind of are there any practical examples that come to your mind which sort of show evidence of this inherent value, this like potential? Because I personally understand it, that there is this potential and I understand what it can do, but for somebody who's new to this idea, do you have an idea of what's like a practical example of this
Yeah,
inherent value?
definitely. So it's I think I throw it on consciousness. So um, everyone only there's one thing we only know, that there's something like me which has a conscience, is a conscious, and who perceives the world. We are aware of ourselves, of our surroundings, um, and you can imagine that every other person has this consciousness. This, I experience pain, I can remember it, I can have relationships to other people, and that's really special to the human species. It's totally different for animals. Okay, animals can in a way experience pain, but only as like a mechanism in their hardwired in their hardware, but they don't have like a consciousness of, I am Matthijs, you are Henry. Yesterday this happened. Tomorrow this might happen. What is right? What is wrong? Thoughts about concepts, etc., etc., which is something I think is really magical because it's non-material, and so we live in we can, everything we perceive is material, but the only thing we perceive which is not material is the fact that we uh, have a consciousness, that we are aware of ourselves and our surroundings. Well, where is this thing? Is it in the brain? Where am I? Am I here? Or
Right.
yeah,
It's basically the inherent value is evident because there is so much. I mean, there's potential, but there is potential because the human consciousness, at first, it seems like it only exists in the here and now. But I actually think the human consciousness exists across time, because who you are now is partially who you will be in the future. It's influencing that. So you already exist in the future to a degree. And you exist in the past because I don't know if you know stuff about like epigenetics or anything. It's like how your ancestors' DNA was transformed depending on their environment. It influenced their DNA, which is then handed on to you. You're basically a product of a consciousness that has existed for as long as humans have existed, and you're already in the future, because this talk right now that we're having might I know it will influence something that I do tomorrow. So just now, like, this is already part of the future. And the reason why that is so interesting is because it has some divine element to it.
Oh,
It
okay,
gets in the direction of something divine.
okay. I agree with that, but why is that the case from your perspective? Why is there inherent value from your perspective?
Yes, nice.
That you
Because
feel like it's a great idea, but
because every human has consciousness. It's, I mean, unless you have some medical problems, which I think can inhibit your consciousness. This is where it gets dangerous.
it can
I don't.
influence your consciousness. But okay,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and that consciousness across time. I mean, it's one ingredient. It's one aspect, but the potential for creation that stems from that consciousness is seemingly infinite. The potential, or let's say the limit to that potential, is not obvious. We don't know what that limit is. If it's there, it might be there, it might not be there. But the fact that we don't know it means there is a long, long way in it. Like, it is very, very, it reaches very far. And because you have that potential, you have the potential to transform humanity at every second of your life.
But then still, okay, consciousness has then value in a way that how I think about today, what I'm doing, what I'm choosing
Mhm.
will influence the world. But then it's like, okay, there's potential external value of my actions, which gives me internal value. But then it's not internal value from the beginning, because you say I can bring potential external value to the world around me, which gives me internal value. I say even more on the core, we have internal value because there is a creator outside of the universe who said, "Let there be Henry." You know, in that way, is there internal value?
But why would, oh, okay, the value is stamped on me by someone else, by something else.
Now, in a way, it's like, again, it's independent of what you're going to do. It's like it's there because
Oh,
you exist. And
yeah.
if you're going to waste your life or not, you still have this value. If you end up thought experiment, you end up in a situation in which you don't have friends and don't have family, no one cares about you, and you're not producing any utilities to society, then what is your value? Through relationships, none. Through utility to the society, none. But then still, I believe you have internal value because it's just given to you because you were created to be here
Yeah.
by.
I would continue your argument and say, yes. I mean, I'm still uncertain about this divine being
Yeah.
giving you the value, but I would say is you have the value because you always embody the potential. The potential is always there. And we as humans are not able to judge, to say, okay, you no longer have that potential within you. You have to have that faith that the human always has the potential within them, and you will never know if they manifest it or not. Because some people, they don't, let's say they manifest less value. Okay, I'm going to broaden it down to, let's say, economic value. Just say it like that. That we can be certain of. Less economic value than someone else. But we are not able to judge and say, okay, this person will probably never manifest it. You just have to have that leap of faith to say, we don't know when and whether they manifest it. A lot of people manifest it. Let's give this person a shot. Let's put what do you call it? Doubt. Uh,
Advantage of the doubt, but that's
yeah,
Dutch.
exactly. Yeah. Benefit of the doubt. Let's give them the benefit of the doubt. That's what it is in my eyes.
Okay, that I think again it sounds also romantic, but in some situations it might be a bit naive, right? If you say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, people still have potential value, even if they're like in a hopeless situation. So again, in the thought experiment of someone with no relationships anymore and no economic value, I'd say even if he does not have potential anymore, then still he has internal value. That's what I'd say.
Okay.
More
I
radical.
understand that, but you can hype. I mean, realistically, there is always potential within the human. The potential can never go.
Okay, and then you say even if there's some potential, then someone is worth enough.
Yeah.
Okay, you are
Okay.
you are grateful. You are merciful on humans. Yeah,
Well, I mean, let's put it like this. It's always easier to speak about these things hypothetically until you have a genocidal person who has murdered millions of people, and then you say, okay, does this person still have inherent value? That's, you know, or not even that, but who will like traumatize you in your personal life to actually forgive this person and say, you have internal value, I forgive you. Like that's a whole new, like it's easy to talk about it hypothetically, to actually put it into practice, different story.
I know some people who are sometimes forgiving, and I say well, that's uh, I'm proud of you that you can be forgiving in this situation. Yeah.
And I mean, just like one more thing about this section, this topic. When you forgive somebody psychologically, you, I think, affect them more powerfully than with any other strategy of dealing with them. When you show forgiveness, you kind of you plant a seed within that transforms them, I
Yeah,
think.
it's really to receive forgiveness when you even especially when you know, okay, I was wrong. I started a fight with a friend, and I was wrong, and my statements were wrong, and I treated this person unlovingly, and then without the other person getting with the discussion, but saying I forgive you, it can be quite awkward because in a way you then have to admit, yeah, I was wrong, and now we're over. The fight has stopped. It's like uh, the way of saying it is like then if you forgive me, you're putting hot coal on my head, a bit like
Yeah.
done, and then it's okay, thanks, but yeah,
Yeah, I
wow,
read that
how can
somewhere.
you be so
Yeah.
loving? And then hopefully the effect is that someone will be forgiving as well in the future himself, herself.
Yeah. That's powerful.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, cool. That was part two. Do you still want to do one more part,
Uh,
or are you tired?
I'm really interested in, okay, where are we? How are things going? How
Uh,
are you?
Good. I mean, like, I feel good. Like, I mean, I'm very happy to just freestyle these things, not to like stick to the red thread, but just to like let it develop how it develops.
Perhaps we can, if we know both of us where we should go
Mm-hmm.
eventually in the next 20 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
then we can build bridges.
Yeah, sure. How about we try and talk about something quite practical now and try to draw in the forgiveness, the inherent value, all these things in,
We could, okay, yeah.
or
Uh,
what?
I'm also thinking about, okay, wait a second. What kind of questions or topics that you shared with me did we
Yeah.
not address? And
Mm-hmm.
uh, is it in a way, uh, can we get some of those three uh, talks of you
Mm-hmm.
which I listened today can bring them in, because they're also touching the subject. So we already missed that, I think, to talk about what do we mean with the word God. I think especially when I did like this, I
Yeah.
did quite some time, right? Creator, then that
Yeah.
was my definition, right? Okay,
Yeah.
that people know already. Yeah, you said something in another view about, okay, nihilism is boring. So, but then I think it's really interesting to come to the question, okay, whether it's boring or not, is it true? I mean, like, that's also really a core question, because what I feel like, Henry, is that you feel attracted to spiritual stuff
Hmm.
because you really want to run away from nihilism,
Yes.
right?
Correct. Yes. 100% true.